Why are we called Negroes? Why are we deaf, dumb, and blind? Why is everybody making progress, yet we seem to be lagging so far behind? Why are we mistreated? Why are we in this condition? Stripped of our name, our language, our culture, our God, and our religion. Here in America, all of our religious training has been gotten by the preacher. He has told us of a heaven way up in the sky that we can't enjoy now, but rather after we die. But all of the years that we're
And we are live.
Assalamu alaikum. I guess until our sister Michelle comes in.
Go ahead and take over, Brother Lau.
All right, assalamu alaikum, dear family. As I say to all my Muslim brothers and sisters, and praise the Lord to all my Christian brothers and sisters, and to all my Black revolutionaries, Umgawa Black Power, and to all you beautiful, peace and loving people who tune in to Thursday Night Talks. We thank you. We thank you for being with us. And I would say what my sister would say right now. You know what to do right now. You already know to go get your peoples. All right. Powerful program tonight. Go get your peoples. But while you're doing that, make sure you like and you share. You like and you share. You know, Brother Tony, I was just looking at the promo as it was coming on, and I was reflecting on all of the different shows.
Yes, sir.
And all of the different topics. And it said to me, wow, this is a beautiful library to anyone who wants to be a student of freedom, justice, and equality.
That's right.
It's a beautiful library and so many different topics to go in. So I want you all to do your part. And speaking of doing your part, it looks like Sister Michelle, is that you?
The hostess with the mostest is here, brother.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
All right.
I got it.
It's all right. We
Doesn't matter.
we got
You are
the
here.
glitches. You're here.
I am here.
I did remind them, we're going to turn it over to you, sis. I did remind them to like and share. I didn't remind them like you do it. Nobody does it like you did. Now, I did tell them to go get their peoples. Right? I told them to go get their peoples. And I was also reflecting on this beautiful, beautiful library of information, inspiration, teaching, and training that is in the catalog of the 7th Region Coalition's Thursday Night Talk. So, family, we're going to add another addition to it tonight that is so powerful. And so I'm going to pause right there. And as I get ready to turn it over to you, Sister Michelle, I want to say this to our folk who are thinking about not going to get their people. You know, I was speaking with someone last evening at an event where, you know, people are out and, you know, they don't wear masks anymore and everybody is just going along and forgot all about COVID. And she says, wow, I would have never thought that would have happened to us in a million years. And I want you to think about if you ever thought about that, particularly as it pertains to having something to eat.
Come on.
as it pertains to having some food. I mean, like to survive. So I'll pause right there, tell you to go get your peoples, right? I see we got our sister Kim chiming back on in, but
that's right.
Let me turn it over to the hostess with the mostest, Sister Michelle Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum. There you
are. Wow. Wait. There you go.
There we go. All right.
Wa alaikum salam. Greetings. Good evening. Assalamu alaikum to our Muslim family. Welcome on in. And of course, always in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. All praises are due to Him. It is Thursday, y'all. Thursday Night Talks. I am so happy to be able to get on. I don't know what's going on with my internet this evening, but you will bear with your sister this evening as I muddle through. But yeah, we do have a good topic. And just like Brother Lau was mentioning, what the topic that we're going to be talking about is something that we went into our last show. So if you didn't have an opportunity to listen, go back and listen to the couple that we had on the other Thursday, because what we're going to talk about today is an extension of that, and that's the importance of what we have to be prepared for the things that are coming. That's already here, and things that are coming. Right. So if you have not had an opportunity to grab someone or grab your family member or friend, you absolutely need to do that. This is the time. This is the conversation.
Me and you, your mom and your cousins.
Matter of fact, Sister Michelle, Brother Tony, let me tell them this. Look, anybody you know who eats,
come on,
go get them.
That's it.
Anybody you know who eats, go get. Anybody you know who eats, like and share this too right now. Anybody?
Oh, wow, isn't that everybody?
That should be
everybody.
Something with on my camera, but yeah, everybody should be tuning in. And by the way, we're on YouTube, so just in case you forgot, because we did the like and share and all that good stuff. If you don't like to be on Facebook, go on YouTube. Check us out there. Either way, the information needs to be disseminated. So if you're not helping, right, then you're hurting. So just make sure that if saying sharing is caring,
that's right.
Sharing is caring. Anyway, I'm your sister Michelle, I'm your moderator for this evening. I just want to remind everyone, please do that because it's important. And the more we share and the more information that we give, hopefully it'll help save someone's life, right? That's the important part. So anyway, I don't want to kind of belabor the message. Brother Tony, I will pass the baton over to you.
This way.
All
right, there we go. Hey, you virtually passed it. In the name of the one God who bears many names, some know him as Jah, others know him as Jehovah, some know him as Dios, some know him as Bon Dieu. Regardless to the name that you may call God, we urge you to call on God and seek the guidance that you need with whatever religious institution you are gathered with. But here, we, as a 7th Region Coalition, we're here steering people to save lives. This is what we have been put together to do under the regional leadership of Student Minister Patrick Muhammad. And he himself, he assembled us right after the Criterion message of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan back on July 4th, 2020. He put us together to warn our people of a experimental inoculation, if you will, which we've gotten so many reports, lo and behold, as a result of taking that experimental inoculation, that's cost lives. It's cost many of us to have health issues. Here, what we're doing right now, we're speaking about the broader issues about saving lives. We are in the midst of an inflation. We are in the midst of a recession, even though they may be calling it something else right now. Well, oh no, we're not in a recession. We're moving towards it. No, it's already here, beloved. And so, what are some ways that we could circumvent? What are some ways that we can get ourselves out of harm's way with all of the experimental food that's in the market? What should we be doing right now to make sure that we have access to good food? We're going to be speaking to our guest today. in regards to the high importance of this topic and what we can do in this hour. Our programs have been powered and have been presented through the 9 ministries introduced to us by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. This here tonight, we're focusing on the Ministry of Agriculture. Sister Michelle, we could have that wonderful message and breakdown of what the Ministry of Agriculture is. The Ministry of Agriculture is responsible for the development and maintenance of a system of sustainable agriculture to provide wholesome, natural food to the members of society. In addition to food, this ministry is responsible for the production of raw materials required to build good homes and manufacture clothing. Our guests here today are going to be discussing about what they are doing in their community and how it could be an inspiration to us. And so with that, let's go ahead and make way to introducing our guests. Sister Michelle, you wanted me to read the bios?
Yes, do it. And so once you're done with the bios, I will bring them up.
Excellent. All right. So we have 2 guests here tonight. The first is our beloved brother, Kokai Nosakera, excuse me. He's also known as Royal Star Allah. At the age of 21, our brother attended the first Million Man March. This was back in 1995. It was a life-inspiring moment. He raised his hands to return back to his community and make it a place fit to live. Raised in Anchorage, Alaska, with access to the 5% nation, he helped raise minimum wage statewide 3 times, conducted the Juneau hunger strike in 2012. Brother Lyle, I know you could relate to that. To force state-level Republicans to spend state dollars on the school nutrition program and earned 2 journalism awards with Alaska Commons, a hyper-local media outlet which published for 5 years. In 2018, he relocated to Oregon, where he founded the Ashland BIPOC Sanctuary and is heavily involved in an annual event called the Black Cultural Festival. He currently lives in Eugene and is working on becoming a master gardener. And then the other brother who will be bringing on as well, he works hand in hand with our brother, J.R. Morgan. J.R. Morgan, in his bio, it says, Morganic Roots is a locally owned firm by naturalist Eugene native Arnold E. Morgan Jr. As a boy, he worked countless hours with his father's landscape business. And from there, he has transitioned into a more organic and sustainable approach with his work with a business degree from the University of Puerto Rico. Ethical business decisions, good heart, and a green thumb. Morganic Roots was developed. On his journey, he has also received a certificate in both horticulture, permaculture, design, and advanced permaculture design focusing on climate resilience from Oregon State University. Morganic Roots understands the interdependence of all, which makes it easy to cover a broad scale of topics with the firm. With over 10 years of experience, Morgan specializes in sustainable, eco-friendly practices, design on a big scale and small, installation, maintenance, wood crafting, including custom garden beds, sustainable gardens, holistic health. Morganic Roots values hard work, efficiency, and customer satisfaction. And so let's bring on our 2 guests here for this evening, Sister Michelle?
Okay. Let's see if I can get them
Come on,
up.
give me some love. Give me some love. Give me some love.
Okay, and we
Brothers
see
working
Brother
that
JR.
time.
There we go.
Beautiful,
Welcome,
beautiful
welcome,
gift. We welcome you two beautiful gifts.
Hello.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Wow. Doing some awesome work. You know, when they say the prayers of the righteous are answered, just to know we got great minds that are thinking like these brothers.
That's right.
And welcome all the way to the 7th region from the West Coast.
Trendy. Thank you for
So,
having us.
No, you're very welcome. Let's kick this off. Maybe the two of you, or maybe one, can maybe just start talking just a little bit about yourselves, and then we've got questions. But I would love to hear the individual kind of story, or kind of what you all kind of brought you together. I know we had the bio, but maybe just a little something from the two of you would be great for the audience to hear.
You want to go first, JR?
Yeah, that's cool. So my name is JR, and you guys, that the bio was from my business. I have a business called Morganic Roots Eco Firm.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, I'm really proud about that. I'm a father, as you can see.
I see something else you're proud about back there, good brother.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess I kind of got into the organic movement and sustainable gardening when I was living in Puerto Rico, and that's where I graduated from. I played basketball, and I was really, into that. And when that time ended, I was in a search for, who I was and what is happiness, because I lived through basketball for so many years, and that point came when that time ended, and I found a book called The Tree of Life Meditation System, and I started reading that, and it was talking about meditation and how you can't really meditate unless you're, putting proper food in your body and you're connected to yourself. So I instantly started making some changes within my diet, started meditating, and then it led me to gardening. And so I was just living this like full circle out there. And at that point, I was at a financial struggle because I was really trying to fight for what I believed in out in Puerto Rico. And that led me to come back to Oregon, where my family's from. So I've been out here for about almost 6 years, and my business is rising. I just got a contract with the city of Eugene that I'm really excited about. And I'm doing some good work out here. We have 3 community garden plots where we're educating the youth, and people can come and they can learn how to grow food. The people that work are sharing harvest. I also had mentioned that I just did a project in Zimbabwe where we installed this sustainable garden. And so I'm just full force. I also really believe in, financial stability connected to the sustainable life. So I feel like that's extremely important. And yeah, so Kakai can kind of take off from there.
Quite all right. I know JR because of a wonderful Black woman named Talisha Brown called Crowell. Her vision is the Black Cultural Festival, and that happens every year in Black August. And so she heard about what I was doing in Southern Oregon with the backyard gardening program, and said, JR is doing something at the community garden over at Matthews that's around the corner from where you live in Grand Street. I was like, okay, cool. And I walk over, the brother's there. He introduces me to the plots, and with his vibe and him saying, the work he was doing in Zimbabwe, and then, the fact that he's almost he could easily cosplay Emperor Haile Selassie. So it was instant connection on that front, since the right side of my brain is Ross Bob Marley. And so it was wonderful. At the end of the street where I'm living, we also have the Ross family, and they're one of the pillars of the Black community here in Eugene, like NAACP getting started, first MLK celebration, Black student unions, and their children are extremely active. And so we kind of recruited Daddy Ross to come over and help, and it's been an absolutely beautiful experience. Enjoy. JR is extremely modest, but the brother's got like, 6 inches worth of information that is like on deck at all times. And I've not asked a question yet that he didn't have, reams of information in order to share with you. So I'm extremely excited to be on this particular journey. And the only thing that we really want to do from here is just scale it up.
So let me ask this, and I'm so impressive. And somebody remind me later on after we get in depth to ask them about their childhood. They're both so super excited, and we know they had to take root somewhere along the way. But even before we go back there, just brothers, in terms of agriculture and Black folk, where are we? Where are we not?
Well, okay. So it seems to me that where we currently are is at an educational deficit.
That's right.
We're so used to going to grocery stores and all the work being done for us that we really don't know where our food comes from or how our food is grown. The number one thing that I learned when I was in Southern Oregon doing the backyard garden was the importance of soil making. And in the beginning, I didn't even know what that was an element, because the ground is the ground. So you just put a seed in it, put some water on it, and it's supposed to go. Then you learn that you can have barren soil. So it can be dirt there, but just basically just rock that's just pulverized, and there's nothing nutrient there. There's no life in the soil. So I
know some people like that.
So I learned that you ended up having to make soil that was worm friendly, bug friendly. And if the worms and the bugs are present, now you got life present, and then everything else can grow from there. But it took me a moment to learn that you had to amend the soil that you were working with and prepare the bed. And that's where our brother with the horticulture, please take that one on, because it blew my mind when they started saying that you want to start with just the ground and then lay sticks and then maybe some sand and then put compost on top in order to, and the wood, the old sticks and everything become sponge-like and hold water to the point where they can even make horticulture mounds to where they don't water them, because the rain soaks up into the logs and is allowed to, it's like making a small pond for the roots to be able to access. And that blew my mind. I was like, I've been walking on the planet Earth all this time, never thinking about quality of soil and what that really means.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Wow.
JR, agriculture, where are we? Where are we not?
Well, I think as a whole, like you said, we're in the West Coast, and I spent some time in Africa, and I spent some time in the Caribbean. So I feel like agriculturally, overall, I think people are in different situations. Like in Africa, people are growing. If for instance, in Zimbabwe, like that's where I went, so I can speak from that. We went to Bulawayo, and in the neighborhood, you can see a lot of, Black people growing food. Everyone's Black, so everyone has food, and it's a sustainable thing, where they have to do it to make sure they have their corn, to make sure they have, the necessities. So when we're here in the States, it's a little bit different because we don't have that need. And everything is very simple, and everything is at our hands, where we can order food now and we can do all these simple things. So it really creates this disconnect. So I think it's when we're talking about Black people, Black people in America, I feel like are suffering because we are disconnected from nature, mainly because of the resources that we have, and that is a strategy, for us to not be connected, but also to the fact to where, yes, people are growing in Africa, but it's mainly older people. So the youth, they're also trying to disconnect us from being connected to growing food, and pushing us into getting degrees and trying to push us away from manual labor. And I personally believe that gardening and health and taking care of your body shouldn't be something that we have to chase to find. I think it should be something that we have within us. So I mean, I've heard, you know, other people talk about the education is missing. So I think that that's a real big disconnection is just the education on the importance of agriculture, not only in producing food, but the importance of being connected to nature and how many benefits that has also.
Powerful.
Beautiful. If I could share this story, in the school that I was at prior, I'm an educator by trade. We had a cooking program for the children at the school, and a lot of these children had never. These are middle school students. They were being introduced to vegetables. They were looking at vegetables like, no, I don't want to try that. That's nasty. You know, it's like that's like the mentality that we're dealing with. Like when we're dealing with the disconnect, it is severe. I'd like to ask the question through your work and your intervention in the communities that you're servicing. What type of as our people are really in food deserts, literally, what type of success stories have you been able to establish? If you could share some of your success stories.
Well, currently we got 2 plots in town. We live in Eugene, Oregon, so it's not like Atlanta. It's the numbers are slim out here. So we've been successful enough to have me there, Kai there, Ross there. If we have 10 people or even 5 people working at the garden, it's success. It doesn't necessarily need to be extremely big, but we're putting in work. We're growing food. Last week we just gave a educational class for the youth. We built all these garden beds. We planted them up. We put in strawberries, so it was like instant gratification, and it kind of gave that you could see the kids, because the education is, when you're talking about plants, which I've done a lot of workshops, it's not the most interesting and exciting topic, when you're geeking out on like flowers and plants and soil. Like, some people are interested, but majority of people, 85 to 90% of people don't really care much about healthy food or growing food. So trying to find ways to connect is success. And that was an instance of success, connecting to the youth and then having their parents, be a part of that. One of the most recent things, like I said, when I was out in Zimbabwe, we gave an educational course, and there was about 50 people in the class, which was awesome. And we also planted probably about 15 fruit trees. And so it was like mango, papaya, avocado, bananas, peaches. We also planted some herbs and flowers. We connected irrigation. And so I'm still in communication with them. The nonprofit that I was working with, collaborated my business with, is Mambita Foundation. And it's a group of Africans. As mentioned, my wife's from Africa, and she's on the board with the Mambita Foundation. And so we're making a lot of moves, and there's a lot of success going on right now. So it's a really positive time.
Beautiful.
Love it.
So in Southern Oregon, with the BIPOC Sanctuary, we did 8 backyard gardens. What we learned quickly was no one had done it before. So it was a learning curve, and it was a steep learning curve. So that's why I said I started off with learning that you had to amend the soil. That was through trial and error. There was one thing, no one dropped out of the program. That was the very first thing. They did the program all the way through. And there was a sharing component. 30% stayed with the household. 30% was shared with the other 7 members. And then 30% went to elders or the food bank. So it was extremely gratifying to me to like get all this harvest when it came in, because I learned that, squash, once you plant squash and you water squash, you will have squash until you stop watering squash. Okay, so we would have like every week once harvest started, I would have 8 grocery bags and would literally go around sharing all this produce that was fresh, and everyone beamed because they had never seen abundance like this ever before.
Wow. Woo, seeing abundance. Woo, you hit a nerve on that.
Never
one,
before.
brother.
And so the second year, it was easier to get people involved than the first year. The second year, they literally told us at the sanctuary, I want the entire system. So they wanted a vertical operation. Can you guys buy us a greenhouse or a small greenhouse so we could do a nursery? So then we could do our own starts and then put them in our beds. So we ended up having to do a lot of organizing for the second season because the enthusiasm had gone through the roof, and we had to buy manure. And there are certain things like manure, like if you've never done that before, the fact that there are entire farms where that's all they do is compost and manure blows your mind. Like I
Put a price
literally
tag on that industry for us, brother. Put a price tag on the manure industry.
Depends on how many yards you want to get. So and then it changes up if it's going to be chicken or if it's going to be horse. I think JR is going to be a little bit better when it comes down to those particular prices, because in Southern Oregon, it's farmland. So you had a number of people who were sharing, and we got ours because we did it through the sanctuary. They literally gifted it to us because they were like, yo, we ain't never heard nothing like this before. Black people are working together, and you guys made it successful. And if you're in Southern Oregon, they're like, we don't know about, they just see Black people furring here and there trying to escape oppression. So the fact that we were actually working together, they literally just said, we'll just give it to you. So I didn't pay nothing. but I learned that there's different kinds of manure and compost. So you learning that, what a yard of dirt is and how much a yard of dirt is. So like you fill up the pickup truck with 2 yards of dirt, and then you gotta move the dirt. So you get strong real quick, John Henry Strong real quick on that front. So to me, mainly it was the connections that were formed from doing something that is as human an activity as growing food, and then the sharing thereof. Because once you got all this fresh produce, then you got to learn how to cook it. And so then we started sharing recipes with each other, because there's no point in having all this good food that you're not going to consume, because we didn't want any of it to go to waste. So you ended up having to substitute a lot of previous meals because you've now got this produce here that you're trying to consume. So everybody's health went through the roof. All the babies went through the roof. We had a couple of children who were autistic. Their behaviors toned down because there was less impurities going into their bodies. So They started being able to listen. They started being able to sit longer. They could keep their focus and concentration. So I just saw nothing but benefits all the way around. And you when you look at it, it's like a cone from Buddhism, where the solution is so simple that you seriously don't believe it's going to take. But then you find out that's all we had to do. Yeah. Wow. And you could grow a lot of food in 12 by 12 feet. You grow like 300 pounds of food, easy. So when I said that we had 8 of these going and we were sharing, it was just a massive amount of food.
So
now,
what
I was thinking over this.
I was going to say something that, just to stay on that topic, because you said something that's very important, is that the vegetables, when it's the purest, right, when it's coming right out of your garden, you're absolutely getting the benefits. But let's talk about that, just that piece of it, because what we get in the stores, and right. So let's talk about, because there's benefits to this, but let's talk about why it's important that we do it, because what we're getting in the stores and what we're putting in the body, we think that we're getting the nutrients, but we're really, really not. So let's talk about that. JR, either one, doesn't matter. I just know that You hit
both.
on it.
Now, either one. This is an and both for these brothers.
Right.
Both y'all.
Yeah, I hear that one. We grew tomatoes in the backyard that I had. I know we did tomatoes and squash were the main thing. We tried corn. We learned that you have to do it in bunches and you got to have cross pollination. But what I noticed was the tomatoes that you buy at the store and the tomatoes that you grow in your garden taste totally different. Same with the squash, same with anything, potatoes. It tastes totally different, especially if it's a mended soil that has all the real nutrients. The tomatoes that you buy in the stores tasted bland. They tasted light. They didn't have any volume to them. But when we were growing the tomatoes, now you actually wanted to eat a tomato, and that's not one of my favorite foods. But you wanted to eat the tomato by itself because it was just, you got a sweet tomato, and you're like, tomatoes are sweet. This is a fruit. They're sweet. They're not plain. This is not just alkaline water or something. You sit there for the first time and you eat 5 tomatoes, whole tomatoes, and you're like, I just ate 5 tomatoes. I've never done this before. But it's a totally different experience. Absolutely, totally different experience. JR?
Now, I was going to say, but before you add on to this, JR, why do you think that there is a difference? What do you think that's happening to the fruits and vegetables that are making the difference?
Well, I think first off, it just depends on the source, right? Because here in Oregon, where we live in Eugene, there's a lot of healthy food, healthy stores. You know, I can list like 5 or 6. So this is, not considered a food desert, right? So we do have option to go into the store and get organic produce from a local farm. And so these local farms that's one of their sales. That's how they distribute, is through the stores, right? So, but there is a difference of when you're talking about organic and non-organic, but even to that, Omri is the one that labels organic, and it says that it has to be 90% organic. So it's still, it's organic, but there's still 10%. It's not necessarily organic. But then you have someone like me or Kakai that's growing food without the label of organic, but it's like you can trust us that it's natural because we grew it ourselves. We knew what we were putting in it. So I guess to answer your question, I think it has to do with the input. Like he was talking about the soil, that's the main thing, and also when you're spraying chemicals on stuff, it definitely, like for instance, apples, like you get those apples in the stores and they're shiny and perfect, that's not a natural apple. And then when you bite into it, you get that kind of wax taste versus an apple that might have a little, maybe not look as beautiful, but it's more tasty. Another kind of thing that you see a lot, very common, is that like strawberries are really big, like if you grow them yourself, but then sometimes, the size differentiation can always be, either they'll be really big because they're like pumped with
steroids,
steroids and chemicals. And so we're talking about fruits and vegetables, which I that's what I eat. Majority of my diet is fruits and vegetables. But even when you're talking about meat, meat is even kind of a more, like for instance, if I don't eat meat, but if you do eat meat, like the cows and all of these animals that are not labeled organic, it's extremely bad. It's way worse than a non-organic apple versus like a non-organic chicken wing, right?
Okay. I gotta ask a question. I gotta mention this, and maybe this may take us all off topic, but I'll keep it in the realm of what we're talking about. I said to someone, let's think about how many homes, how many families, how many restaurants, how many shops that are selling meat. So are you trying to tell me that we got all these animals to slaughter on a daily basis which they say organic or not, that we have all of these animals to supply all of this meat all day long, every day, at the rate that we're going, I'll stop it right there. But I just know that vegetables, right, you can grow them fairly in a fairly not to say a fast pace, but you can. There's no imitation apple. Let's just say it like that. There's no imitation this meat. They're producing it at such a high rate. This impossible. Well, maybe I shouldn't say impossible. That it's real. So this thing about organic, non-organic, you know what I mean? Is that
Sister Michelle? Are you referring to cloned meat, Sister Michelle?
Well, it could be. Yes, it could be cloned. It could be cloned,
which is very real. I believe I read an article some years ago where now cloned meat is permitted in America, and so when we're eating meat, we really don't know what we're eating.
Wow. So vegetables is the way to go. Sorry, Brother Lau.
That's all right. Yeah, I want to go back to something that the brothers really both alluded to in their remarks that really dealt with how growing food together produced a certain kind of human culture.
Yes.
Right.
And when we look at our urban communities and we look at things like violence, and we look at things like obesity and things like depression and all the different ills that have been affecting us since we've been urbanized, so to speak, what kind of impact, people talk about solutions, what kind of impact could doing this concept that you all have in our communities have on those quality of life factors?
Very first thing, green new jobs. Absolutely, green new jobs. So Mary McLeod Bethune and being able to craft Bethune-Cookman College as completely independent, not attached to the federal government. Growing food was absolutely essential in being able to do that because it leads to independence. Okay, because if I can feed myself, then I don't have to tap into these other systems. And like JR was saying, down here, farmer markets are huge. So now I've got an outlet to build a job, and I can be my own person, do for self, without having to be subject to all the rules and regulations that will force me to now go against self in order to access dollars. Okay. So once that kicks in and there's a certain level of independence, then there's a level of security, because now you can show up consistently in a way that the system isn't used for you showing up. And once you start giving that level of example, it allows other people to say, well, I can shine like I see them shining. Why are you shining? And then you can share a meal, you can share food, you can share the process, a pathway towards independence. And now that high functioning depression that the great majority of our people are walking around in, blind, deaf, and dumb, that starts dissipating, because now they can be in control of self. Because, I mean, in order to be the master of this house, I got to rise up out of this house. And in order to do that, I need to have the material to be able to do so. So if I'm eating crap, like JR was making reference to, now I'm at a low vibration and I can't self-actualize the way I'm supposed to self-actualize, because I literally don't have the strength to do so. And then when I say the strength, it's going to start here mentally before it has any kind of outward expression, because thoughts are things. But if I can't generate the thought because I've got so much impurities preventing me from thinking, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, then you're going to create a door, like Dr. Carter G. Woodson said, to go around the back in order to collude with your own oppression. So it becomes a pathway towards that unity where you can just be your own self without having to compromise in any way, shape, or form.
Boom. You heard the mic drop. I know you heard the mic drop.
I heard it right there.
Right. Right. They are going to pick up the mic, though, but good Lord.
Wow. Yeah, so what he was saying.
What he said.
I just truly feel feel like on my journey of, you know, holistic success, sustainability, you know, trying to connect to my life, myself, my mind, like trying to be my higher self in this life with all of these lower instincts and all of these different things going on. I feel like I saw a lot of time the things that I do were labeled as white, as being white. Like for instance, you know, oh, you're white, like you're doing, you know, yoga or meditating, or you're eating salad, or you're doing this. And it's like my own family, you know, would be looking at me. You know, I had some run-ins with my own father about this, you know, and I had to stick through and just like know that, you know, I know what it is right, and I know that this isn't a white movement. You know, this is a movement for everybody, and no matter your color, but especially Black people need to get on this, because this is something that, you know, me and my friend, we say like, you know, $100 outfit with a dollar in your stomach. You know, like you got the Jordans, you got the
wait, Gerald, the sound just went out real quick. The sound went out, and some
It
people
happens every
missed
now and
that.
then, Jay.
Right? You said 100 what with $1 what?
I said $100 outfit with a dollar in your stomach.
Mm.
Oh, Lord,
You know, and what I mean to like kind of go into it is like, you know, we'll have Jordans, you know, we'll have the nice, you know, gear and the nice earrings and stuff.
Right.
We're eating McDonald's, right? And you know, it's totally fine to look good and be fresh. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, you know. But that's why I'm trying to promote holistic success, to where, you know, finances and, you know, having, you know, if you want nice things, you can have nice things, but you could also, you know, take care of your mind, take care of your body, you know, by, you know, the things that you put in your mind, the way that you treat people, the things you put in your body, you know. It definitely makes a difference for sure.
We have to ask ourselves the question: are we worth it? And if we're not truly exercising that idea that you just expressed, JR, just prioritizing our health rather than looking good, but how are we doing internally? We're suffering.
So I tell you what, though, we won't be suffering too long if we allow these brothers to have access to the resources they need, that we can duplicate this. So I'm going to visionarily wise right now gift you all the millions and billions of resources that you need. How do we duplicate what you're doing across America and our communities?
Well, I don't think that you need masses of people. I'm operating from the premise that all I need is 5 out of 100. And if I got those 5 who can maintain their mental fortitude, then they can provide the guidance. So if we did 8 backyard gardens, we just take the 3 pages that we mapped out of that plan, and we just basically go around systematically to every school. I would like to work with schools, because schools provide a community that's already there. And I know lots of people say that they don't have access to community, even though they're in the midst of a community and benefiting from a community. So we start with a school, and the PTA or PTO passing out the 3 pages of instruction. Then you give somebody who's going to be a foreman or foreperson, and they just go around and act like, you know, the organizing grandmother, making sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it. And there's abundance that starts kicking in, you know, within 120 days, 160 days, you start seeing the produce come in. So then once that you get that satisfaction, once you get the babies working on their strawberries, because strawberries come up real quick, and they can actually eat the strawberry, see that it's a different taste. Now you get their buy-in. So it becomes easier to do it the second season, the third season. By the 4th season, they're walking around saying, okay, they're planning it out themselves, because at some point they're going to take the ownership that they can do this on their own. Or when they relocate to another community, they bring those 3 pages of instructions and then begin organizing. But we don't need like the masses of people to all of a sudden become organizers. We have enough within our community at the present moment.
Right.
Because we tend to do that. We get to see like the big corporations, so you got to think that you got to be the big corporation from the start, instead of starting where you are with what you have. And then once that's successful, it becomes easier to scale up because everybody starts developing the skills to garden. Okay, that learning curve. So with the millions of dollars, I would spend most of that on soil making, on compost farms, because without that soil, you can't do anything. Okay. The second thing would be bees, and create aviaries and have the babies learn how to care for bees and cultivate bees. I think Manny Allah is in Denver, and that's one of the things that he is real big on. Is he's a beekeeper. So to me, those become the two biggest things: soil making and beehives. Because between those two things, you've got just about everything. You could go to a place that's concrete jungle, pull the concrete up, amend the soil, put some bees there, and in 2 years, we've got abundance all over the place.
Brother Kokai, we had Brother Elia Rashad, a student minister in the Nation of Islam. Guy, what was it? Some months ago, Brother Lyle?
Yes, indeed. Go back to that beekeeping show there for me, because it's all full circle here on the 7th week.
Yes.
We lost JR.
Hopefully we'll get it back. Hopefully we'll get it back.
I have a question for Kokai, though, because I see how passionate you are about this, my brother. And
I was about to say,
so good.
I'm after you, Brother Tony, because I got a question for Kokai.
I have to defer to you, Sister Michelle. Go ahead.
No, I mean, well,
y'all better ask the question.
Go ahead and ask the question, Sister Michelle, and then I'll ask my question.
I was gonna say I was seeing the excitement, but my thought was, I was like, wow, we're taught or wired to think that this is difficult. I hear you, and I hear the excitement and the idea of the babies and growing, but I'm thinking, how do we combat this mindset that we have that makes us lazy in our minds and says, oh, it's too hard. I'll just, you know what? I'm just going to drive to the store and go get some peppers or some eggplant or some onions. Like, this is way too much, because we just been wired to think that it's just so difficult to do what you're saying to do. And it's not, I know it's not difficult, but we're so wired to be so dependent. So that excitement that you have, what suggestions would you have to help us shift our thinking? I mean, I hear it, but you know how it is.
I think I get what you're pointing towards. Yeah, I think I get what you're pointing towards. Well, if memory serves me correct, because the left side of my brain, I like to say, is Minister Malcolm X, the right side of my brain is Ross Bob Marley. If memory serves me correct, there was this person, and he said that if you're surrounded by people who are sick, all you need to do is clean your glass.
Right.
And when you clean your glass and start drinking from your clean glass, the other people are going to look all of a sudden and say, how come you're not sick when we're sick? And that's when you can say, here's this clean glass that you can drink from, and you won't be sick either. I think, I believe that was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that has said that. So I think if we just follow the blueprint that was given to us,
all you have to do is stand with two glasses right next to each other, brother.
Right.
Dirty one and clean one.
Right. And they will come over and want to drink from the clean glass. No different than when they said the first time that Bob Marley came through, no one had ever heard that heartbeat rhythm, so they didn't know how to react. The second time he came through, same venue, the producer or the promoter, it was standing room only. The third time he came through, there had to be a free concert because everybody in the community wanted access to that clean glass. So that's what I think that we end up doing is, once we become the living example of the solution that we're talking about, the other people say, well, what manner of woman, what manner of man are you? And then you get to say, I am you. I'm just a little bit ahead. Come on, we can run together and we will be able to thrive together.
Beautiful.
There are any reflections?
Well, I got caught out was cut out for a little bit, so I just got the.
Well, that's why you got cut off from your money, brother. We gave you a visionary, unlimited budget there, brother, and all the resources you need to build out what you're doing.
Okay, yeah.
How do we do that? How can we take it? We got to give you your money. That's right, brother.
So we're talking billions or trillions, or what are we talking? Millions or thousands?
Okay, let's talk millions.
Yeah, because $1 million today isn't very much.
Right.
Teach.
So we're talking. I mean, that's the thing. It's hypothetical. I don't really like to think like that. But I guess if I had $1 million,
we did say millions.
Yeah, I would just expand. I feel like I have a good concept of what I'm doing right now. You know, I do design work, I do educating people, installation, maintenance. I'm growing a lot of food, so I would just amplify what I'm doing. I believe it's important to try to stay humble and try to just stay not get too caught up in outsourcing, I guess, overspending, like keeping my budget low and being able to maximize the production, not only with the food, but just with the lifestyle in general. And at that point, after I got my situation secure, I would go to Africa and really start putting in some work out there, growing food and helping with water, just having access to resources like water and electricity. Because I find it like, as much as it is, there's a lot of people in distress here, but I feel like when I've gone out there twice, and I'm definitely planning on going back, and I want to go to different countries, but I feel like the fact that Africans don't have just your resources of water, electricity, and food, I would try to build some stuff out there to improve that, because we don't really have that issue, where water is an issue. I mean, at least in Oregon. I mean, maybe California, there's different situations, but I feel like giving back to Africa, the African American or the Black people here, I feel like we have a huge responsibility to help Africa. Like, we have the technology and the privileges. So if I was privileged enough to have millions of dollars, I would sustain my situation here and then go to Africa and just create something sustainable, to where it's not like you're just going out giving money and then it's gone, but putting money into something that can continue to grow, and create jobs, create opportunities, create resources. That's what I would do.
You brothers are a gift.
Can I add on to what he just said just quickly? Because
yes, sir, my brother.
To me, I'm also in agreement when it comes down to us talking about that fiat money. I come from Alyeska, all right? And so for those who don't know, that's an Athabascan word, and the settler couldn't hear Alyeska, so he says Alaska, right? So 80 million square miles was, quote unquote, ceded back. And they have this intangible thing called sovereignty. And that sovereignty is more valuable than fiat money, because now that means that the resources on that land, they have access to and can prevent the destruction thereof. Because when you're in Eklutna, which is just outside of Anchorage, you are not in the state of Alaska. You are not in the United States of America. You are in Eklutna. And if you have a problem, you got to take it up with the United Nations, not with the president, not with the governor. They are sovereign. And if you come onto their land and you seek to do destruction, they can stop you. So the salmon that they hunt, pristine. You get what I'm saying? I mean, they literally, the stuff that they're eating is not, it's the same as it's been for the last 10,000 years. Right? That is such a source of wealth that we don't really talk about, which is the power to be able to maintain the earth the way it is.
I'm gonna hold off on my question for right now, Brother Kokai. There is a very interesting question here posed by Sister Kim. She asked the question. So my question: where can one grow his or her garden who is currently residing in an apartment?
Oh,
If
Jr. Do you work with aquaponics?
Not much, no.
Okay, I do have a friend in Southern Oregon. He does work with aquaponics, and if he uses fish, okay, but you could do a vertical garden, which you take a side of a wall and you go upwards. And you create shelves and you create the space where you can go upwards. And if you get a pump, you can literally circulate the water and keep fish at the bottom, which you feed in order to provide your nitrogen. And you can circulate it, and with 12, what 6-7 feet and 4 wide, we can come through. We can build it. That's basically what it gets down to. We can build it. There are processes that we can use that are very practical, but it's very possible inside of an apartment. The issue is going to be the improvement in your air. It's going to be the smells and how aromatic, it is. You're going to have people complaining about the fact that you're happy because you have, organic growth and life in the apartment. There won't be anything negative, but when you're surrounded by people who are walking zombies, then they may start just looking down on you because you got this clean glass. So that'll be the only downfall from it. But we can work within an apartment without it really skyrocketing your electricity bill or anything else on that front.
Okay.
Let me say this real quick. Sometimes I got to break it down the real kind of way, fellas, and I just got to say it like this, right? Let me tell y'all something real quick. MacGyver, James Bond, James West ain't got nothing on these brothers right here.
James West. Wow, man. Whoa.
Man.
You went back in the day.
To add to this question,
Leave it to Brother Lau.
to add to this question, I have a question about pottery. Sister Kim asked, how can you grow a garden? Like if let's say that you have a balcony in your apartment or whatnot, would pottery could that be feasibly used to develop a little garden right there in your balcony?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. The aquaponics is definitely more like Kakai was saying, it's a building that it's a structure that you have to build, and you have to kind of understand how to create that. It's a little bit more complex. But once that gets going, it's definitely, very sustainable. But with that being said, if you have an apartment and you have a little deck, yes, you can grow in pots. You can build, a garden bed. And so really what you would want to do is plant plants that don't desire much root space, right? And then you want to think about like the microclimate of, if you have sun or if it's shade, and because there are plants that grow in, shade, and full shade. Like for instance, there's sorrel, which is a native plant here that grows in full shade. If it's like partial shade, then you can grow like kale or lettuce, if it's full sun. So thinking about that, which a lot of people don't really think about much of that type of stuff, but when you have a little bit of space, being able to maximize it, like he was saying, you could do vertical gardening, the same thing that he was saying with water. You can create a vertical garden with soil. Also, a lot of people that I've seen have done, like, if there's space on the roof, people have like gone onto the roof and just talked to their apartment complexes and made that happen. But most of all, I think it's just important to connect with. I think it's just important if you don't have space. Let's say some apartments don't have a deck or don't have, a roof, but there's access to, community gardens. There's always people that I feel like gardening people in general are always very open for community bonding. So, I mean, if you connect with them, maybe they give you, you get your own garden bed. So, I mean, once you open up the door to being open to gardening and having that be part of your life, I think that opportunities will present themselves and you could end up having a full plot, or all of a sudden you got access to an acre. But you have to start somewhere, and just opening up that door to growing some oregano on your window shield, your window, and that will turn into more if you continue to search for that light.
Question, JR, is there any consideration for what level on the apartment you're at? Meaning that if you're at the ground level and you got a lot of traffic that goes by you, does the car exhaust impact the plants in any way, shape, or form?
Yes. So finding a way to block that. I mean, there's different situations that you can do, but yes, it will. So if you're right on the street, for instance, but people do it. People, like I was saying, in other countries, they're doing stuff like that. So I mean, it's all about just putting your best foot forward and trying to make something happen, right?
I have a question. Now because I thought about this at one point. Could I, or if
keep in mind the airplane system, Michelle, does have to land too.
No, I know, but this is one good question. This is a question, and it just came to me because I wanted to ask. What about they have portable greenhouses? Because I was looking into something like that. Could I do something like that? A portable greenhouse?
What do you mean by portable? Like you can move it around?
Yeah, well, yeah, they have them. Well, I was doing the research. I was looking on Amazon, and yeah, you can move them around. Like you can put them in the house. You can start growing some of the plants in the house, or you can move them outside, or you can have the greenhouse outside. It's not a huge one, but one that you can kind of put outside so that it can get the sun and be outside, but not get attacked by bugs and other things like that. And it just allows the plants to grow. Maybe could that be used in an apartment or anything like that, or does it matter, or am I is it wrong of what I'm thinking?
No, you're right on. I think if we're going into that, I think introducing microgreens is really a good route for something like that, because microgreens don't necessarily need much space. And what I mean by microgreens is like not a full grown plant, for instance, like a lettuce, or a different plant that you just, like kale, for instance, you can grow it, or you can harvest and eat a tiny kale plant. You don't have to allow it to get really big. And I guess kind of just like a way to do that is by having a tray, filling it with soil, spreading the seeds, right? So it's not like one seed, one seed, one seed, one seed. You're like covering all the area with soil. And to kind of just, a little bit more education is, so when you have a seed, you never want to plant the seed more than 3 times the dimension of the seed, right? So like a lettuce seed is really small. So then you just sprinkle a small amount of soil on top. And now you have a thing called succession. So when that's growing, you have another one. So essentially all you really need is 3 trays of microgreens, and you could potentially have as much greens as you desire, and you can grow those inside on your counter. Another way that some people have done it with artificial light. If you're in like that's another, like if you have you can buy a light and just have that be the light if it's in a area that's maybe not as bright, or it's not getting enough light. So the answer is yes, you can definitely use that, but you have to be precise on what plants you're planting. You don't want to plant like something that's too big for that area, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Wow.
As we are landing the plane, Brother Lyle.
but as we do it, Brother Tony, because we do want to leave time for our brothers that have closing remarks as well too.
Absolutely. I have a question for Brother Kokai, because you spearheaded an end child hunger campaign in Alaska, in Anchorage, and you were able to produce some change there. How do you spiritually, personally, how your involvement in this project here in well, not here in Florida, but there in Oregon. How do you see it as being an extension of the work that you have already committed yourself to?
It's just, well, that it's the passion becomes the force, and then the passion inspires people to begin providing outcomes. So by staying focused in on taking care of the least of these, the babies, the ones who have the least power in our society, by taking care of them, that lowers the resistance that most solutions encounter, because you got the inertia of our society. You know, it's Babylon. You got the inertia of our society. So when we're organizing, most of the time, we're pushing up against that inertia to create the new thing that solves the problems that the inertia is creating. So by doing the gardens and the babies being able to help, because it's not super complicated, because it's dirt, because it's an antidepressant to put your hands in the dirt. So then they get to learn about the worms, and it becomes an easy lesson when it comes down to animals and insects and how everything is connected and it's one. And then they start valuing the sun and valuing where water comes from, valuing where the food comes from, and it bonds the family. So it becomes a very practical way to end child hunger without having to fight the inertia or people's desire to not wanting to fight the inertia, because it's something tangible that an individual can do on their own, regardless to what other people are saying. So that negativity it's a way to get around that negativity. I hope that answered the question.
It does. Thank you, my brother.
And so if I may, brothers, I do want to give you all an opportunity to have closing remarks, and I only have one request in your closing remarks, and I must say very quickly, what stimulated the request that I have is, when I listen to you, brothers, when I feel your vibration and your energy and your spirit and the cast of your vision, I know that there was a making in that. And whether the making was with parents or whether the making was with mentors, we're in the business of growing human beings too. And just as beautifully as you all have helped to grow those gardens, you helped to set a framework to how to grow beautiful, strong soldiers like yourself. And so in your closing remarks, if you can just touch on whether it was a parent or a significant teacher or trainer that helped guide you and help mold you. And to the parents who are listening, understand that we all have to be that to each other's children. But in your closing remarks, if you could do that, my brothers.
Go, JR.
We can't hear you, JR.
You're on mute, JR.
You're on mute.
Okay, what ignited, you know, like I was mentioning earlier, the Tree of Life meditation system, that really just changed my perspective. So I mean, if the youth, I feel like that's a great book to, you know, it teaches you about, you know, your higher self and teaches you how to meditate. And I feel like meditation was a really big guide. Also, Dr. Sebi, when he was alive, he was, you know, I felt like being a healer was something I wanted to do. He made it seem like it was cool when I was young. And so I was really originally, you know, into healing and into nutrition. I became a nutritionist. And on that journey, you know, so, you know, Dr. Sebi, we had mentioned Randy Ross, another gentleman here, but honestly, the plants have been the main motivation, and just being able to connect with them and learning from the plants, and then seeing how many opportunities have presented themselves by just staying connected to the soil and growing plants and just trying to just spread positivity. You know, I got 2 little kids. My wife's pregnant right now. So, you know, opportunity and finances are extremely important. And so that's also been kind of a motivator, you know, of trying to create security, financial security, but also sustainable security. And I guess my closing remarks would just be, you know, it's important to be about it versus talking about it. And, you know, so I respect the fact that we are talking here, but I hope that everyone, you know, looks at themselves individually. And that's all we can do, you know, is look at yourself, you know, and see what you're doing. And are you growing food? Are you eating healthy? Are you treating people good? You know, and I have to do the same thing to myself because I'm the only one that can judge that of how I'm doing. And so everyone kind of has to connect to that. And also whoever is open, you know, I'm in it. So my website is morganicroots.com. You can connect to Kakai, connect to me. We're doing things. So, you know, Tony, Michelle, and brother Lyle, I appreciate you guys taking the time.
Appreciate you.
I'm open for collaboration. So, I mean, if you guys have any other opportunities or whoever is watching, it's Morganic with an M, MORGANIC.
Morganic. That's right.
Yeah,
Right.
morganicroots.com. So,
you
like
don't
I
see
said,
the entrepreneur playing that there, brother. that Morgan with Morgan, brother.
yeah. So
Classic.
you gotta be. So all I'm saying is, you know, reach out. You know, I can come out. You can come here. We can make something happen. But we have to do something. You know, just talking is great, but the action is what really is important. And that's why I have a lot of respect for Kakai, and that's why I'm supporting him because he's a man of action, and he's never. I've only known him for a few months, but he's always been on time and hardworking, and we've been getting a lot of stuff done. So that's all I got to say.
Beautiful. And JR, before we go to Kakai, who's the author of the book that you mentioned?
Honestly, it was a while ago. I know the concept of it is from Egypt and the Kemetic scripture. So what they did is it's a famous dude, but he translated the Kemetic scripture from Egypt. And so it's like
you gave us a lifeline to it. That's what I wanted to make sure the people had.
Yeah, that's what it is. And it's not necessarily a religion. It's more of just like a spiritual awakening. And yeah, so Kemetic scripture is also that's it pretty much. And you could probably find it from different authors, but it's definitely consciousness for us, that's by us, for us, you know, for us to learn from and to you know, because I guess another closing remark is they've tried to steal everything from us.
That's
you know,
right.
and it's proven that, you know, everything is from Africa and everything is by us. And so, you know, spirituality, they try to go, India and all these other things, but it's like we are the creators and we have this higher power within us. So, but it's up to us to tap into that because the disconnection is real.
That's right.
Beautiful, brother.
That's right. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I would say thee, my brother.
Well, being born in Alaska, I'm like the second wave of the migration out of the South. My family is from Louisiana.
Wow.
And Anchorage, I grew up in the 70s in this very magical time, and I didn't know how magical it was until I left Alaska. Okay. So I remember being a child, and I would go to assembly at Fairview Elementary, and they would tell us, we have someone who's very special here. And I'm like, okay. And it would be Mahalia Dickerson, who was the first Black lawyer ever in Alaska. And her better friend that she would bring up every year to visit her ranch was named Rosa Parks.
Wow.
John Parks, who was the unofficial mayor of Fairview, we'd go down the street, we'd pass old man Parks' house, and I'm like, Daddy, yeah, that looks like Muhammad Ali. And he'd go, because that is Muhammad Ali. And then my father, similar to you and Brother Tony, he was a part of the first resurrection. So
I I wasn't part of the first
I'm sorry.
resurrection.
Okay, he was, but I mean, he was there for a while. That's what I'm making point to. Right.
Yes, sir.
So my rite of passage was at 21. He sent me to the Million Man March. My baby brother, he sent to Brazil. Okay, so I gotta say, it literally was my parents and the neighborhood, because it was that magical time period where, because of all these people flowing through, going to Japan and back and forth, I literally got access to some of the biggest and best minds of the African American diaspora. I mean, Karinga, Baba Dick Gregory comes up. So I had all this inspiration to draw from, and they never put in our heads that the inertia of the society could stop us from acting, that we could always maneuver around it and get it to do what we wanted it to do, because we are the original man.
Come on, teach, beloved.
Mm.
Sound like you know.
Man, family, so
I got something
powerful.
to say
I have
real
a
quick.
special request. Yes, sir. Go ahead, big brother.
I also want to give respect and shout out to my family and my father, because my father
Yes,
and my
sir.
mother, I don't want to forget about them and just my family in general. Like they were, even though we think differently about a lot of things, just the fact that I have their support,
Yes, sir.
I don't want to forget about that. Give them respect.
Absolutely.
Wow.
It
Brother,
was a
you
great
just, when you
honor.
talk about well-rounded, you just really, that was more than icing. This was a very healthy, well-rounded conversation and exchange. And I'm going to ask everyone who catches this to really go out your way to share this with families, share this with our young people, share this with teachers, share this with teachers of teachers, because this conversation was rich and not just words and deeds and action. But I'm telling
Brother
you,
Lyle,
very
one of the major lessons that our brothers have taught us here in just this conversation is, you want to grow together more closely as a community, want to grow closer as a family, go build a garden.
Right.
Teach.
Yes, there you go.
Let's
Teach.
grow together. Let's
Yes.
build the unity that we say that we need and that we want.
So yeah, I'll definitely be reaching out to you brothers and connecting. But yes, Sister Kim is right. Just like the soil our brother makes, it was very, very rich, And Sister Khalila's not here tonight. We want to give our sister a shout out, Sister Khalila Muhammad.
Major
also want to
shout
give
out to Sister Khalila.
Right.
She's here in spirit, Brother Lad.
That's right. We want to give a
Tuning
born
in
day
somewhere.
shout out to Sister Zebe Muhammad as well. Blessed born
That's
day
right.
on yesterday.
Sister Zebe.
And in the spirit of Sister Khalila, we normally do the tree of the week. You know what the tree of the week is right now, this week, based on these brothers?
We don't
all
have
of them. We do. All of them. All of
No,
them.
wait a minute now, Brother Lad. Before we get off, there is a tree of the week. We want to encourage, the believe. I mean, not the believe. Well, the believers too, but the audience. Start a garden. Start your own garden. If it's just start with one plant, just start. Just start with one. You know what I mean? And then and then let it progress from there. But that is a tree of the week. Just start with
Beautiful
one. That's
right. And
beautiful
Michelle, Brother Lyle, we continue to bring to you, the viewing audience, quality programming that is meant to benefit our lives and is meant to save lives. So, StreamYard is not free.
Bring it on up there, Brother Tony. Tell them, put your money in your cash app. Put your money in your cash app where your mind is, family.
We provide to you is free, but this here is not free.
StreamYard is not free.
No.
Making connections and putting in time and hours is not. Do your part, family. Do your part to back up this mission so we can help support other missions like the great ones you heard tonight. Put your cash app where your money is, and now put it where your garden is.
That's right. Put 5 on it, but don't sing the rest of the song.
Everybody got to get it done.
Oh my gosh.
So look, family, with that, we always like to say that we're not a clique, we're not a gang or
Throw your setup, Brother Lyle.
We got a 7 Reasons Coalition. Much love and respect, family.
Anyway, thank you so much, you all. See you next
Thank you,
Thursday.
family.
Have a wonderful evening.
Peace, family.